All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to School Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Nick, and I'm here with my good friend, Dr. Kevin. How are you doing today, Kevin?
Hey, doing all right. It's been a long time. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy
Hopefully
New Year.
we're
We haven't talked since, right? It's been that
no,
long.
fighting off some illnesses and some other stuff. And it sounds like we both have had some big things in the works
Yeah,
last few weeks. So,
I did just
uh,
turn 30, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. I,
yeah, I did. Hunter was like, "Oh, we need to call Coach Nick and tell him happy birthday." And then we were both kind of going through some different stuff. So, happy birthday.
Thanks,
But
man.
years on you. So.
That's crazy, dude. I love it.
Yep, yep.
But
I'm getting back into it. I'm revving up to start doing some sprint training and stuff, and it's been helping doing sprint training with Hunter's team now, and working on some things with another coach, former MLB pitcher Chandler Shepard, and the facility he's working out of. So we have some big things and some big collaborations coming up, which I will share when I for sure can. So
let's go, man. That's great, man. That's what it's all about. Just keep progressing forward and keep connecting with the right people. Good things will continue to happen.
yeah,
So
yeah.
today though, let's get into. I want to talk today about me and Kevin. We're talking on the side about preparing for tryouts and little league evaluations and high school tryouts. All these things. We're at the time of the year right now, starting in February, where a lot of college teams have already started. They're playing their preseason games right now, but a lot of high school teams are either just starting or they're about to start. I know around my area personally, there's all the schools they have their tryouts starting next Monday. That's when the high school tryouts are. So that's what they're preparing for. And then travel ball tryouts for the spring and summer season, those have happened probably like last November, pretty much. At
Hmm.
least in my
Hmm.
area, guys are trying out for in like November to prepare for the February through July season, kind of what we have going on around here. So, and then on top of that, the little league evaluations, they're not really tryouts, right? Everybody makes the little league team, which as it should be.
Right.
But I get a lot of questions from parents, about how to prepare, about what they can be doing, about what like they need help. There's certain things. So I think that it's a great conversation for us to talk about, especially for you being a parent. So I guess I'll
Mhm.
start. Like the first thing I want to touch on is little league evaluations. I want to talk about that first because I have had a lot of parents that have reached out to me, and I had a ton of lessons in the last 2 weeks, like more than I normally do, because I've had parents that are like, "Hey, my son or daughter, they have not hit or swung a bat in 2 months, and our
Mhm.
evaluations are in a week. Can you help?" So I'm like, "All right, here we go." I'm strapping on, ready to put the seatbelt on, ready to go. But the big thing that I've realized is you don't want to be trying to get ready late. You don't want to be hurrying up to feel like you're ready. And I'm sure you
Yeah.
can relate to this. Baseball is the kind of sport where it's not like riding a bike. You can't just hop back
It's
on where you left off.
yeah, I mean, it's any sport really. Baseball and hitting a ball for sure. Like you have that time off and it's going to be a noticeable struggle, at least getting going again. And, some players are going to jump on it and they're going to pick it up again really quickly. Others, it's going to take a little bit of time. But growing up, we used to always say off-season training was like legalized cheating. Like that's when you're putting in all the work.
It's true.
So,
Well, I know as a coach, when we start our seasons back up, I can tell right away which guys were putting in work on the offseason and which guys weren't. It's very clear.
mhm.
And then I think in little league, what I see is when you have let's say you have a 10-year-old kid, you know, your 10-year-old kid probably is not only playing baseball. And as you should. I don't think that any kid should be only playing one sport at a young age. I think you should be playing a lot. But I think that if you
Hmm.
want to do well, specifically in baseball, and I guess other sports too, but baseball for me more than anything because of how different each part of it. You got hitting, you got throwing, you got catching, you got fielding, you got running, like all these tools that you have to have. And it's important to find maybe sports that help complement your sport. So I found
Hmm.
that flag football is a great complement to baseball. Basketball is a great complement to it. If you do any sort
Hmm.
of track and field or like cross country, I've heard there's some cross country teams at elementary schools, which is crazy. I never had that, but if you do, awesome. But I'm curious, what in your eyes, what sports and things and off-season things could you do that help prepare kids for baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. Flag football and basketball are really good. There's ball tracking in the air, understanding ball trajectory, how they kind of carry and fly. You're doing a bunch of different movements and using the whole body to play the sport. Um, Track is helpful if you're doing speed work, if you're a sprinter. Running fast on the field for baseball is very important. And I've always said that baseball players should train more like track athletes, particularly your sprinters and jumpers. Um, Distance running, I'm not as big of a fan on. It's a different energy production at younger ages. I think a lot of running just in general is really helpful, but typically as you get older, that distance running isn't going to be as helpful in a power sport like baseball. I'm a big fan of martial arts. My son does Taekwondo, and just having that body control is huge part of that. So definitely a big recommend. Racket sports, tennis would be great. You're cutting, you're still like swinging something at a ball, and you're working on that hand-eye coordination, which is huge. So,
Yeah.
um,
Dude, Taekwondo, that's a great one. I didn't even think of that. That is, I realize probably I would put that on the like top of the list as something that you should do because I think that it's teaching you the mind to body connection, which is like the hardest thing to coach a kid when you have a young kid and you're like, hey, when you catch the ball, you turn your glove like this, and they're like, okay, yeah, and they know to do it, but they don't do it, you know,
right.
and you learn so much discipline too, doing anything like that because especially at a young age, right? They're teaching you how to do certain techniques and certain
Hmm.
sequences, and also how to engage your core and use your body to be strong instead of just flailing your arms around and being all over the place.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love
and
that one.
you have to learn how to impart energy into something else. If you're sparring or breaking a board or something like that, like you have to know how to follow through that motion. Otherwise, it hurts when you don't follow through when you go to break a board. I can attest to that because
Right,
it's happened. So,
right. And is this so for Hunter and his off season, right? Because you guys had some time off, and then have you guys started your spring season yet?
yeah, so we got back from Christmas and New Year's, and we had a tournament like that weekend back, and they actually played amazing.
That's awesome.
We had a new addition to the team. He played with us last spring, but was playing football over the fall, and another lefty. So we just have him and Hunter on the team as left-handers. But a good kid, super positive, and he's an athlete. And it definitely helpful, I think, for our team dynamics because he's also fairly vocal. So now we have a few more kids that are real positive and real vocal. Um, and I mean, the results that first tournament are, a huge difference from the fall. So,
Yeah, there's something
um,
about getting a little bit of time off that I think really helps too. I remember personally from my own experience being 13 years old, playing travel baseball and really getting into the grind of it all, and through the end of the year, you kind of get a little bit burnt out, when you're traveling to like tournaments that are 3 hours away. At least for me, that's how far I would go. And you're playing in hot, hot weather on turf fields. And I remember I took like, I think it was probably 2 weeks off, maybe 3 weeks off. And I didn't play any baseball. I remember being like, I'm just going to take a break. And I only played basketball. That was all I did. I would go shoot hoops with my friends. We'd go out to the park. I would go to the gym and I would do like some 4-on-4 games and stuff like that. And then I got invited to play in the wood bat tournament. And I just jumped into it without having any like really warm up and preparing for it. I didn't hit off a tee or anything. I just prepared like that day. It was one of my best tournaments I ever played in. Like I was relaxed. I felt like less pressure. So I think that there's a lot that could be said by when you play another sport and you're just focusing on that, it makes coming back to something a little bit easier, you know? And because I think that some people fall into the trap of like, I have to keep doing all of this if I want to be good. I have to, it's like, just do something, you know? It doesn't need to be
right?
specific sometimes when you're young. Um, but you just got to do something. Like, I guess for me, the big thing I always did was like wiffle ball. Wiffle ball was always something that I just always had going on in the background, whether it was like
Hmm.
for fun or whether my friends and I are like keeping track of our stats and we're like competing. You know, we used to do that all the time. Like even I was like 13 and I still was doing that, you know, just for fun.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, like wiffle ball, you're still working on hand-eye or eye-bat coordination and stuff like that, and
Right.
you can get that ball to move a lot more, so makes tracking a baseball a little bit easier. But you're having fun though,
Yeah.
and just going out there and doing it. You're not you know, kind of like, oh, like I gotta keep my front side a little more closed, or I gotta stay in my back leg, or I'm not firing my hips in time and stuff like
Hmm.
that. You're just going out there and having fun and being relaxed, and that is really when players play their best, and elite players know how to get into that mindset or that feeling when they're playing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So I
so.
guess like if I had to give advice to any parent that's preparing for Little League for evaluations, don't put pressure on your kid because Little League doesn't matter at the end of the day, right? I
Mhm.
don't personally remember a whole lot from my Little League, you know, now looking back. I remember a lot of the good parts. I remember a lot. I remember my first home run. I remember winning a couple of championships. I remember, you know, a few great moments. I also remember a lot of bad moments, you know, where you strike out and you make an error or whatever happens. But in terms of like where you want to be, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, you know. So if I had to give any advice to a parent that's preparing their kid for evaluations, I would say try to play catch every day, right? If you're
Mhm.
if you're like, okay, evaluations are in a month, let's start playing catch now. Let's pull our glove out. Let's play some catch, right? Let's go play wiffle ball. Let's go to the batting cages. Let's see how we do hit. Let's go to the field. I'll hit you some ground balls, you know, and make it a game. I think that that's the biggest part of this is make it really fun and don't make it
Mhm.
this chore and it doesn't need to be more than what it is. You know, Little League is a game.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
absolutely. So it's looking like I might be coaching this spring, and already in my mind, what I'm looking for, one is a kid that's got a good attitude. Um,
okay, here,
then how do they?
let me, because you're about to touch on something that's really important, and I'll just ask a question so you can just take it. As a coach, what are you looking for in a player when you're evaluating them?
Yeah, I'm going to start with attitude
Yeah.
first. How do they carry themselves on the field? I personally am not going to care how many times a kid commits an error. And, as long as they're having a good attitude and giving really good effort, like I can work with that. Um, it's going to come because they might be a little bit rusty. They might have been off doing a different sport. And, um, you know, they're just having like an off day, or maybe they're just a little bit nervous or something like that. But having a good attitude and giving their best effort are all controllable things, regardless of whatever situation they're in. So, um, like that's going to be what I'm going to look at first, and just how athletic they are then.
Mm-hmm.
Great if they have really good mechanics and they can throw a ball really well and swing a bat really well and make some good hits off of either, usually they have a pitching machine or of some sort or something like that for hitting, but um, that in my mind is going to be kind of further down the list. Now, that is me, and I can tell you other coaches are going to be like, oh, yeah, I want the kid who's got the best arm and can hit really well and, hit some nukes and stuff like that. Um, there's absolutely going to be those coaches that look for those players and are going to want to draft them. But the whole point with the league and doing player evaluations is to kind of spread the talent. And one thing that helped us last year in the spring doing Little League for the first time was us as coaches, so I just helped out. I was an assistant, but our head coach and me and the other assistant coach, we all came into it with a very positive mindset and really tried to encourage the boys to, stay positive, treat their teammates well, and give really good effort. And we actually ended up being, I think, third in our league, maybe second. I'm trying to remember. But bunch of teams did not think we would do very well, and part of that was the inexperience of our head coach. Um, they just kind of thought, but she leaned on me and the other assistant coach who had a lot more baseball background for some of that more technical stuff. But like when she drafted the team, she looked at players for those kind of characteristics that I talked about.
Mhm.
And then we just put it all together. So,
Yeah. I think that, like, in my eyes, the coaches that are the most successful and also have the teams that have the most fun and the best culture, you're looking for players and you're trying to spot what their future potential is going to be, right? You're like, is
mhm,
this guy going to be easy to coach? Is he going to be a leader? Is he going to take what I tell him and do it, or is he going to reject it? Is he going to be lifting his teammates up, or is he going to be a guy that you're going to have to remind to be positive? And I think that for me, I want to create a group of kids that are all have the same goal in mind, which is we want to win and we all want to get better. And I think that the more that as a coach you can spot that in players and give them like the encouragement they need, you'll see so many guys step up that you never thought would. And that's my favorite part as being a coach. Is I love it when players surprise me. Like I love it. I
mhm,
love when there's a guy and you're like, yeah, he just doesn't look good, but like he looks me in the eyes when I talk. He says, "Yes, coach." He's always hustling.
mhm,
He's the first one there. He's the last one to leave, but he's just not there yet. I love that kind of player because all of a sudden you'll get into a game and he's hitting to the bottom of your order and a moment comes up and he comes out big for your team, and he does something cool. He makes a cool play. He strikes a kid out, like whatever it is. Like I love those moments that happen in baseball, and I think that baseball is such a unique sport in that way that it creates those moments. It creates a moment where a guy that doesn't normally comes through, or a guy that always comes through, he fails, he strikes out. And then the next guy
yep,
comes up and picks him up, you know. I love that part of
yep.
it.
Well, and you're always a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Apprehensive or concerned when, the game is real tight
Yeah.
and it's the last inning and you're coming up to the bottom of your lineup. And that's really when you got to like lean in there and just tell whoever's up to bat, like, hey, go up there, find your pitch, have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I I can't tell you how many times like that has come through in telling the player to do that versus like, hey, now, like, remember, stay in your backside and blah, 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 it just, the kid knows the, the weight of the moment,
Right.
and getting them relaxed, they're going to play their best at that point. And if they're going to have a shot at making that hit or making that pitch on the other side of it, um, that's how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, okay. So now kind of flipping to the other side of this. Are you still good on time right now? Yeah.
yeah, I got a little bit yet, so
Okay.
pretty
I was
good.
just gonna say now the next side to this is now tryouts. Because in evaluations, everyone makes it, but in tryouts, there's cuts. And this is where you start getting into like travel baseball. Um, Certain showcases will have things like this. They're not really a tryout, but that's a little bit different. But in high school, and I think the first thing that everybody should know is when you're going to a tryout, you need to understand what you're going to do. And I think that the first thing that I've always done in my tryouts is you do some sort of running to see how fast somebody is. You're clocking in their time, you're seeing how fast they are. So if you're someone that's not fast, practice running, time yourself, have a mark a 60 yards is normally what you do in baseball. You do a 60-yard dash and you time it, and if you get under 7 seconds, and this is like usually like high school and college, you want to be under 7. Like that's fast, or it's like pretty average, being like a 6'8". If you're like below 6'5", that's really fast. So like running is
Hmm.
going to be the first thing you're going to be taught how to do. And then you have like usually it's like velocity. They see how hard you throw, right? You're fielding a ball from the outfield, throwing it in, or fielding a ground ball, throwing it across. They're going to see how strong your arm is, right? So being comfortable with throwing hard is really important, knowing how to use your body. And then they usually give you some sort of ground ball or fly ball or fielding, and then they just want to see how good your glove is. And then I think the final thing that every team does is usually hit at the end. You get like, and this is something that I don't think most people know. You will usually get 5, 6, maybe 10 swings, and that's it. And
Hmm.
and I remember being on the end of it, being in the tryout and being like, that's all I get. Like you're gonna judge me based on just 6 swings, But at the end of the day, when you have, let's say you have 30 kids trying out and only 15 are gonna make the team, you got to go through it kind of quickly. You can't give every guy 20 swings because you'll be there for 4 hours.
Well,
So
and think how
in your
many
experience,
swings you're going to have in an actual game. Like,
yeah,
you're going to have to come up there and,
that's a good
uh,
point.
you're most likely going to have maybe 7 pitches, and like it's usually way less than that. So,
When you did
um,
tryouts in high school, what was it like for you?
well, so remember, I just played through middle school,
Okay.
and I really don't remember, um, I don't remember the tryouts in middle school, to be honest.
Yeah,
But I know now being involved with it, yeah, that's a lot of what a lot of coaches are going to be looking at. A lot of them will even watch players as they come to the field. Are they
that's a
there ahead
great
of
point.
time?
Yeah.
Are they ready to go at the start time,
Right.
not showing up at the start time? And that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves with club right now is guys show up at the start time, but they're not ready to go. And it's like,
Hmm.
no, the time you're to be at the field before a game is the time you're supposed to be there and ready to go
Right.
because we're starting our warm-ups then, and we got some things to get through before we're ready to start the game, and they're going to want to start at the designated start time. So, parents, be aware of that. Teach your kids how to be there early and ready to go at the start time, not showing up at the start time.
Yeah, that's a
Like,
big part. I didn't even, I mean, I've definitely been a coach and watched that, but I didn't even think about that. And it also plays into how they warm up, right? Coaches are watching because usually when you show up for a tryout, you're like, hey, Kevin, let's go play catch before we get going. You're like, okay. And
mhm.
they're watching how are these guys warming up? Are they just throwing the ball around or are they like focusing on a certain skill and are you seeing them get better at it? I
Right.
think that's an important part of what coaches look at is like, is this guy doing stuff to make himself better, or is he only showing what he can do when we're watching it?
Yep. Yeah. A lot of it is how you do the little things or how you do things when nobody is watching or you think nobody is
Yeah,
watching. So,
yeah. One of my favorite
um,
sayings is the way that you do one thing is the way you do everything.
hmm hmm
That's a rings true with everything. It rings true in my own life. You're like shit, like I'm trying to get this done, and you're like, oh, but I'm not doing this, this, and this. If I just do these
hmm
things, then I'll be more consistent.
right. But I mean, beyond that, I think even when it comes to club ball tryouts or high school tryouts and stuff like that, like, you get those things locked in, but when you get in there, then just have fun, relax, let things land where they are. If you don't make the team, seek out that coach for feedback or the coaches and just say, "Hey, coach, what do I need to work on because I want to make this team next year?"
Yeah,
And or the next tryouts you have or whatever it is when that next opportunity comes up, and if you want it, go work on it and show them. And
yeah,
if they're a good coach, they're going to recognize that, and if they're on the fence between you and another player, they're going to remember that and they're going to pick you because they know what kind of work ethic you have. and
right.
and there's a lot of guys in baseball that have made it to the majors that will say, I made it because I just put in the work and
Right.
I just kept grinding,
I kept
and a
showing
lot of them
up.
will say it. I didn't make a team when I was, you know, however old.
Have you heard the story about Jose Altuve and about how Astros picked him up?
Yeah,
They're like,
he
hey,
was relentless,
they were like, you can't,
relentless.
we don't want you to be here. You need to leave. And he's like, okay. And then he showed up the next day.
Yep.
And they're like, what are
Yeah,
you doing here?
just
He's like, I'm here. I'm ready to go. And they're like, all right, fine. You keep
yeah.
showing
I
up.
mean, that's what you got to do, and make the best of that opportunity.
Yeah.
But
And what you'll start to learn too, like just one more thing I want to add as you get older and you go through more tryouts is it becomes less about how good you're doing at the actual thing. At least this is for like I'm thinking of college. Like when you get to college, it's about like are you showing up every day? Because
hmm
what you'll learn is if it's a good school, the first couple of weeks of tryouts, because your tryouts is like 1 or 2 weeks long, they're trying to weed out the weak. They're trying to see can he deal with hard things? Can can we do conditioning and will he stay and show up the next day and be like, yeah, I'm ready to do it again? Because so many guys quit. That's the one thing I remember being in college. We had 60 guys show up for tryouts. I think we have 35 on our roster, or 20, 28 or something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but you get guys that quit and then it makes room for everybody. So if you just keep showing up like you're saying and you keep putting in the work, coaches will recognize it and they'll keep you on the team.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that,
I
yeah,
mean, the hard work is going to be talent anytime, and especially if talent doesn't work. And like I said, the coaches are going to watch how you show up to the field. How do you leave the field? Do you pick up everything? Do you, leave the dugout in a better condition than what you found it? Or even the field. I watch the high school team, the high school players take care of the field all the time after their practice, and you know, it's just how they keep the program going and ensure that they're playing on a good field.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a good point, man. And I think that the biggest piece of advice I would give to anyone that's preparing for tryouts, especially at the high school and college level, is know where you need to get better at. Like know where like, hey, I'm not very fast. Like that's my for me, this is I'm not the fastest. I'm quick, but I'm not fast. So I'm gonna practice sprints more than I'm gonna practice hitting because I'm a pretty good hitter. I'm
mhm.
gonna spend time on the stuff that I'm not good at so that when I show up for tryouts, I can do better at that part and be able to have everything else kind of fill in as I do it.
Yep, yeah, love the process and embrace the areas that you're weak at and
Yep.
work on them, make them not weak.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, all
But
right, dude, you got to head out now.
yeah, I gotta jump here and get off to practices, and I actually have color tip testing for black belt tonight. So
Nice, dude. For you or for
yeah,
Hunter?
for me.
Let's go.
So Hunter has a couple more months, and he can test for his black belt along with his sisters. So been putting in the work and excited to see, and glad that they're gonna get there. Not put it off for 20 years like I did. But
Yeah. Wait,
um,
what belt are you going for today?
so it's first degree in green tip, I think it is. So
Nice.
first Dan green, I guess. Right now I'm at first and orange tip, so go
Cool,
through the
man.
colors and get to the next one. So
Well, let me know how it goes, dude. Good luck tonight. I know that
we'll
we're all going to be rooting for you. You're going to crush it.
we'll do. It should be all right. Just have to go through your PUMSEs or your forms and self-defense and one-step sparring tactics and break a couple boards, which isn't too bad. I think
Nice.
I have a 360 hammer strike. It's gonna be awesome.
Oh, dude, get video of that, please.
Definitely will. Definitely
Let's
will.
go.
So,
All right,
but
man. Well, dude, good luck with that. Thanks for joining me in our school baseball podcast and sharing your very thoughtful insight. I always love talking to you and hearing what you have to say. And
same.
I'm sure all of our viewers do, all of our tens and thousands of viewers that watch this. they all love it
Yeah,
as well.
right. Hey, we're getting there, and we're gonna have some. I hope we can get some pretty awesome collabs set up here in the next month or two or something like that. Like I said, I've been working on some pretty cool stuff, and it's been pretty pretty crazy. It just how stuff's come about. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but got to keep grinding. There's some work to be done to get there yet and all that, but it's good. And I like that we're all on like the same page of, hey, we want to help kids reach their fullest potential and do it as healthy as possible and put out some really good stuff for them to work with and get there. So.
That's what it's all about, dude. It's all about empowering these kids so they can be better than we were.
Yep. And at the least create really good humans. So,
Yep. Yep. Sweet, man.
but
All right. Well, thank you, dude. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. I hope everyone has a great rest of their time. And if you guys, anyone has any questions, leave a comment. We will love to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Or I can just keep coming up with stuff. Either way, I'm happy.
absolutely. We're here for your resource. So
Yep. That's
enjoy
it.
it.